Hi, my name is Stephanie. This is my mom, Jennifer. I was diagnosed with fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, or also known as FOP, when I was 3 years old.
At the time of Stephanie's diagnosis, our family was fortunate to be connected to the International FOP Association, which became our resource for education and support in dealing with FOP. We'd like to give you this opportunity to learn more about FOP and the IFOPA through the following video presentation. In this video, you will hear personal stories from IFOPA members regarding their life in dealing with FOP. You will also meet some FOP advocates whose mission is to spread awareness about the condition of FOP. You will also meet our FOP research team, who, in April 2006, discovered the gene that causes FOP and is working harder than ever to find a treatment and ultimately a cure for FOP. Please note that there will be graphic photos shown in this video in order to better illustrate the effects of FOP. Now, please join us in our mission of hope.
FOP is a catastrophic sabotage of the body's skeletal system. There's no other condition like it in nature. Essentially, the body turns one normal organ system into another. This process of metamorphosis, this very, very elusive scientific process that's been shrouded in mystery for thousands of years. Essentially, children who have FOP look normal when they're born. They move around just like any other child. But they do have one thing that's noticeable, and that is a malformation of the great toes. Around the age of 2 to 5, generally in the first decade of life, but often between the ages of 2 and 5, very suddenly painful swellings that look like tumors begin to appear on the children's neck and back, shoulder areas, shoulder girdles. They can come up overnight. I mean, it's astonishing how rapidly they can arise. Over the course of the next several weeks, each of these lumps generally undergoes a metamorphosis. It transforms the muscles in which it's arising, the muscles and tendons and ligaments and soft tissues in these children from which these lumps are arising, and transforms them through this process of metamorphosis into a bone, into a piece of bone. Eventually, this process occurs throughout the body in characteristic ways, almost as if the body is creating a second skeleton with the same pattern that it used to create the first skeleton. Eventually, these ribbons and sheets and plates of bone replace the body's muscles, tendons, ligaments, all of our moving parts, lock them in place, lock the joints in place, and render movement completely impossible. And any attempt to remove this extra bone leads to explosive and catastrophic episodes of new bone formation. Even simple things like preschool immunizations or injections into the jaw for dental work, bumps and bruises that most of us would be innocuous, cause children who have FOP to begin that bone forming process. But once the bone forms, you can't get rid of it. It's normal bone, it's in the wrong place, and if you try to get rid of it, the body creates more bone. It's one thing to describe FOP, it's another thing to actually see it take over the life in the body of a child, to see how it really transforms their body, but also to understand at a human level, at a very, very human level, what it is doing to children as they're growing and developing. Instead of becoming more independent, they become less independent. And there are many, many tragedies to this condition, but that is one of the most extraordinary ones. That around the time that children and adolescents begin to exert their independence, they become extremely dependent upon others for all of their activities of daily living.
Their lives are going to change drastically. Not only the parents' lives, but the siblings' lives are going to change, the grandparents, the neighbors, the school system, everybody that is involved with an FOP patient, their lives change to a certain extent because of this disease.
Getting up, getting dressed, washing, bathing, feeding ourselves, all the things that we need to do to get our lives going require enormous, enormous efforts as life goes on with FOP. And that's the enervating and really soul-destroying aspect of this disease.
My name is Jeannie Pieper, and I'm founder and president of the IFOPA. I started the International FOP Association in June of 1988 to help end the isolation of others with FOP. The IFOPA has grown tremendously. I'm very proud of all the accomplishments that the IFOPA has made, and it has all happened because of the teamwork of everyone within the community. The FOP community is a unique, amazing group of people, very committed to our cause of finding a treatment and a cure, supporting research, supporting education, to teach families, to help them learn more about FOP, and we're just an amazing group of people.
If you talk about a young family that they suddenly go to the doctor and their child is diagnosed with FOP, and it's like, my gosh, what do we do? So we are here to support those families, to mentor them, and by the use of videos and by letters and campaigns and meetings with people that have gone through it to tell them what to expect, and to sort of be there as a support group for people because their lives are going to change drastically. Our goal is threefold: to fund research, to support families, and to find a cure.
And our efforts aren't limited to just the U.S. While we are the only FOP-based support organization in America, FOP organizations have developed in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Germany, Italy, Japan, Peru, Scandinavia, and the Netherlands. Thanks to everyone's help, we have managed to build a global network of FOP members and advocates that knows no boundaries.
My name's Monica Anderson, and I have FOP. I was diagnosed at 3 years old, but my disease didn't progress until I was 8. So I was pretty much able to do everything until I was 8 years old. I had gone to an amusement park, and I love rides, so I got on everything under the sun. And then the following day, I noticed a nodule on my neck, and it was very painful. And from that point on, different things happened every single day. And then I lost all my mobility at one time. As far as feeding myself, changing my clothes, bathing myself, everything.
My name's Holly Polano. I'm from North Haven, Connecticut. I've been pretty fortunate that I have a milder case of FOP, so I've been able to kind of maintain a pretty active lifestyle, so I'm fortunate for that. In high school, I was active in sports. I played basketball, I did horseback riding. I could physically probably still do some of those things, but I choose not to because of the risk involved. I'm still able to work full time. I can still, walk, and I also feel like I have this milder condition, so I can kind of give back to the community.
FOP is part of who I am. I can't really separate myself from it, but I do not let it control me. It's part of me. I am not part of it. And it impacts some things that I'll do. Okay, didn't get to do the four-wheeling in Hawaii. I had to take a Rhino instead, which is a different kind of ATV, but I still went, so.
I finished college. I got my master's degree from American University. I got it in Russian studies. This small nonprofit company called me. I had sent them a resume. So they picked me up and I did some translation for them. I got them back into the black. So I basically did all this within 3 months.
I work full time. I go to college. I'm getting my master's degree. I live on my own with my boyfriend. It's just it's just a day-to-day living that you're thinking about, so it's not like I'm really thinking about my back hurts today, like I might not be able to move my arm tomorrow. Like I'm not thinking about that on a day-to-day basis because to me there's no benefit in worrying about that.
The FOP community is extremely fortunate to have Dr. Kaplan, Dr. Shore, and the research team so dedicated and so passionate about their work on FOP. And we love them dearly, and we just don't know what we would do without them. We're very fortunate.
What we do as scientists and what we do every day is to wrestle with the destiny of this community in every way that we can. To see patients, to write wheelchair prescriptions for them. Hopefully people that follow us in the next generation won't have to do that. solve their problems as best as we can and move the science forward. That's what we do every day.
The fact that we come from two different types of academic backgrounds really makes a big difference. Certainly Fred's background, clinical background, medical background is absolutely essential when you're studying a disease like FOP, any disease. For me, I come from a research academic background. My responsibility is to work with individual people in the lab to, again, break down that sort of big project goal. Coming at the problem from two different directions, I think, is very synergistic, and I don't think there's any question that we've been much more successful because we've been able to work together like that.
When we set out doing this, we realized that FOP was probably a genetic disease, but we had not yet seen a multi-generational family with the condition. And so we had no idea what the gene was, except that it was probably a switch in the BMP receptor family. But around the time that we localized the gene to chromosome 2, we came across this amazing article written in one of the medical journals. These scientists, who we know, in fact, some of them were at our second FOP conference in 1995, were playing around with receptors, that, again, these switches on the surface of cells, to see what they did. And there was one switch called ACVR1, activin receptor 1A, also called ALK2, activin-like kinase 2. Everybody thought that this was a switch that other hormones and other factors bound to tell the cell what to do. These scientists weren't sure about that, and they decided to make an artificially active copy of this gene, and they did so. And they inserted it into the limbs of chickens and into the rest of the bodies of chickens and said, we wonder what happens. And guess what happened? When the chickens were born, they had a lot of extra bones. So here they had discovered a switch that nobody else really was sure was a bone switch, a bone-forming switch, and they identified it as such. Well, what really blew us away is when we looked this up in the books and we went to the databases of where this gene was located. Guess where it was located? Right in the middle of where we said the FOP gene was going to be. Written in the most ancient genetic letters that you can imagine, were essentially a message to us that we decoded as, these are the keys to the skeleton. How are we going to get from cause to cure? By understanding the mutations that cause FOP, the classic ones and the variants that give us the perspective. Not only is FOP of interest to us in this room and to people who want to make bone and stop bone, but it's also of interest to scientists around the world who are interested in understanding how our body forms as it does and doesn't turn into something else.
We have one specific target. Virtually everybody has exactly the same DNA sequence change that leads to exactly the same amino acid change. So in thinking about what kinds of drugs or treatments could be developed, we only have one target. We only have one amino acid change. We only have one change in the receptor that we have to focus on.
The type of medicine we're talking about would be an oral medication. What it would do is it would get into the body, you would take it, you'd swallow it, it'd be a very small molecule, it would get absorbed through the intestinal tract into the bloodstream, go through entire body, and attach to the ACVR1 receptors, probably normal and abnormal, and disable them.
They spent the last 18 years looking for a target. There's a target now. So I think with the right time, right energy, and right resources, we can hit the target. We can hit the bullseye and get this thing solved.
It's not like cancer or diabetes or Alzheimer's where everybody's aware of it and everybody wants to find a cure. It's very difficult to raise funds for FOP because it is so rare. And it's just not on the radar as much as the other more well-known diseases. But the families, they're still devastated by what they see happening to a member of their family that has this disease who can't do the research without the money. So it was up to the families, and they have led the grassroots effort to raise the funds. And 80% of the money is raised by families at fundraisers from barbecues to golf tournaments to letter campaigns, garage sales, bake sales, everything that you can name.
To fund research and watch it expand because you're funding it. Research exists. There's 5 more people in the lab. There's 10 more people in the lab because someone's funding research.
I think families really need to probably step it up even more than they have, and get new families involved with fundraising, make FOP as known as we can.
It's probably more important that we have the funds now than before we discovered the gene, because now the excitement is there, we've discovered the gene, now we have to find out how to manipulate that gene. And it takes research dollars, just like it did to discover the gene.
Our stories, no matter when they've happened and no matter how old our children are, our stories are often way too familiar. And I would welcome the day that the stories really changed. Wouldn't that be great?